Hello and welcome to our game week 16, 17, whatever you want to call it, EFL Fantasy Football League show. My name is Gary, and if I kiss you, you're going to die because I have the kiss of death for Fantasy Football League players everywhere. This is the show that we enjoy making more than you enjoy watching. We're going live for the first time. We've got a grand total of no viewers, but the reason we're going live is it saves me having to download it and then upload it to YouTube afterwards. So we are speaking into an empty room, Mr. Lamming. How does that feel?
Well, it's no different, is it, to normal, really? It's one person watching our fantastic viewer is watching. Hello.
Hi, Josh.
Yeah, most likely. But yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I won again. So, of course, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, but that doesn't tell the full story, does it?
No,
not really.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't tell the full story. Hi, Adam. Good to have you on board, mate.
Hello.
I hope you enjoy the show. So we will drop straight into it because when I say I'm the kiss of death, it's been a running joke, hasn't it? You know, and sometimes it's my own doing, like with Adji when he was injured the other day, or the Kaminsky, the Luton goalkeeper. But generally, if I pick somebody, every week at least one of my players is going to suffer an injury. Paudie O'Connor, I think I picked Ethan Arahan when he was injured. I picked also Paul Farman when he was sent off. I am the kiss of death. This week, I was the kiss of death, not just to two players, but to a whole game. I literally put paid to a whole game with my curse. So we'll look through my team. And you know how we count moral victories? For me, this is a moral victory. Again,
you must be 5 or 6-0 up on moral victory.
Yeah. Honestly, morally, I am just like literally king of the world. So this was my team, 88 points. Let me tell you what was good. Birmingham and Sheffield United, really good picks, 27 points between them. Williamson, 9 points, could have done better. Stevens, 11. Harry Souttar, who's my vice captain, on 22. Jellis on 7. On average, I should have been looking at 110 week here. But you'll notice some really damaging things. Dennis Sirkin. When we picked our team, we did it on Wednesday last week. And when we picked our team, Sirkin was fit. Come Thursday, Sirkin's out for 3 or 4 weeks. Bosh, lost my captain. Nothing I can do. Matty Pearson, he was one of my ex-Lincoln picks. 8 in his first game. Scored a goal, fantastic. Injured for the second game, needed an operation on his wrist. Lucas Jensen, 4 points. Just 4 points in his first game. 4 points. Last night, Millwall goalkeeper, Portsmouth's floodlights fail. That's the end of that. And so I basically missed out on 4 scoring opportunities. To be fair, Jellis was dropped for the second game. That happens. That's by the by. We've worked out that if my 4 players there had averaged 4 points per game, that would have put me up onto 102 points, which would have been more or less in the region of you. So I am a kiss of death. So I apologize already to the players that I've picked this week. There are going to be injuries, there'll be car accidents, there'll be, COVID will probably come back and it will shut down the entire fixture list. So that was the losing team, 88 points. Tragic, really, for a double game week. And here's your winning team. Go on.
Yay! Yeah, to be honest, I'm delighted to have kind of crept into the hundreds here because after the weekend games, of course, this is a 2-game week. Every player and every team that we have selected were playing 2 fixtures in this last game week. So both of us picked players and teams that were playing twice. I think both of us have probably got to the point now with this where we'd be disappointed not to get like average sort of 50-ish points per week on a regular score. So with a double game week, probably aiming for 100. I didn't think I was going to get there, to be honest with you. On Saturday/Sunday, I thought you were going to be ahead. So you have, of course, had some real bad luck. As it stood on Saturday, I know we both selected Birmingham, but Birmingham have done all right to get 13 points here, despite, of course, a shock loss away at Shrewsbury this weekend. And particularly pleased with my selection of Sam Finley. So I picked him a couple of times now. Since he's come back into the Tranmere side, has been really consistent, scored points for both interceptions and key passes. So I think that's quite a fun little pick. Just someone there who maybe is going a little bit under the radar at the moment. Morgan Whittaker, one of my ex-Lincoln players, was a terrible pick. 2 points in his first game, didn't feature in the second. Rubbish, absolutely rubbish. particularly when you picked a centre forward who was on form up front and scored again. So should kind of really pick informed players. So honestly, mate, I think I got away with it a little bit this week. This is far from a strong week. Now, I think what's worth just reminding everyone of our rules that we set for last week, because we weren't allowing ourselves just to pick anybody. We had to pick at least two players from League Two, League One, and the Championship, and also at least two ex-Lincoln City players as well. So our pool was quite limited. So we kind of did that to try and keep it interesting and pick different teams, which we did. But we were miles behind the top scoring teams this week, partly due to the rules that we placed on ourselves, and partly, in honesty, I think to some poor picks, certainly on my behalf, maybe one or two of yours as well, and then just for you, particularly some sheer bad luck.
Do you know what? I don't actually think I had that many poor picks. Jealous potentially with a 7, but potentially I suppose across 7 players across 2 matches, that would be what 7 sevens would be 49, and then another 30 for the team. So it's 7. Potentially that's low, but it's just bad. I mean, floodlight failure. Seriously, floodlight failure. And okay, I would have needed a huge performance from Jensen. He would have had to have saved about 4 penalties and kept a clean sheet to have got me through. Sirkin's really done me. If you lose one player, or one score, potentially 2 scores in a double game week, I might be able to claw it back when you have Whitaker, for instance. But anyway, let's have a quick look at our league table then here at the Stacey West. So I am 36th at the minute. I'm at 272 points behind our leader, Josh. And again, look at Science on 31. I mean, imagine picking him and captain him. And that was really annoying because I had him in one of my first drafts. I'm going to stop doing the drafts. And it does show you, though, here with Lutdenore on 4, that even the top teams, you can handle one player scoring badly if the rest of the picks are relatively well-rounded. And Josh scored 120. Matt Fenton, 146. He captained Finn Azaz. He was a massive scorer. Nathan Lowe catching the eye down with Walsall in League Two. And look, neither of us backed a Lincoln City player in a week where we had to have 2 former imps. And actually, Arahan and Dariqua both scored really well. Moving down, Amy Jones, so Josh's wife, she's still battling away in there. She actually went for an ex-Lincoln keeper as well that neither of us considered in Ryan Allsop. Another that picked Williamson, as I did. Just going to show that I'm not a million miles away. Cornell's still kicking both of our asses. Absolutely flying. Signs Azaz and Sutar. But bear in mind, these people weren't operating under any sort of restrictions. That's the top 20. We'll go to the top 38 because then that will at least include me. Because I want to make myself feel like you're just hanging outside the top 30. There's actually only 5 places between us, even if the point score is now kind of extending a little bit. It's getting quite hard for me to climb any higher. And I'm still managing just about to hold off Dean on his 1% club, but he captained Matty Pearson, who I had also picked. So again, not bad picks. God, it does annoy me. It does annoy me. I haven't seen Ben. Where's Ben? There he is. Makama Chameleons. He got 133 this week. Captain Science. Look at that. Big haul. But he doesn't play our game. So,
Yeah, but we could have both picked Science if we wanted to. There was no reason why we couldn't have picked him.
No. There wasn't. Do you know what? There's been a real emphasis on defenders, certainly for me, over the past couple of weeks. So when we look at our picks, there might be a little bit of a surprise. Adam Ball says, can I pick some Crawley players this week? No, because one, it's FA Cup, which, kind of ruins the angle. So I apologise for that. But also, 2, if I did that, the game would just get called off when you all got there, wouldn't it? We'd get down to the ground and the floodlights would go and it'd be my fault. So I'm not having that on my conscience. So go on, Chris. Who should we have been picking this week? Who was the higher flyers?
Yeah, there were some interesting ones this week. So I've kind of split this up a little bit into the overall top scorers in each position, because, of course, it was a 2-game week, but also which players had really good individual matches as well. So the highest scoring goalkeeper over 2 games was Callum Burton of Wrexham. And the highest scoring goalkeeper that only, in terms of the highest score achieved in 1 game, was Paul Nardi, who picked up 15 points in a single match. Sorry, to tell a lie. He picked up 11 points in a single match and 4 in the other. As part of the 2-0 victory for QPR away at Cardiff, in which he made 8 saves, which counts for a lot for a goalkeeper, in addition to a clean sheet. In terms of defenders, CJ Egan-Riley had a very, very good week. He scored 26 points over 2 games, but quite a consistent 2 games with 10 points in a 1-0 win versus Bristol City for Burnley and 16 in a 2-0 win versus Coventry. Included a goal, some clearances, a clean sheet, some tackles in there as well. But when defenders score goals, of course, that really bumps up the score. It's difficult to kind of rely on that, isn't it? I always see that as a bit of a bonus, but I think the value in clean sheets is massive, absolutely massive. But there was actually 3 players this week that picked up 17 points in an individual match that was from defenders. As mentioned before, Tendai Darikwa scored 17 in his match against Wycombe Wanderers. Hellick of Huddersfield and also Mr. McGuinness from Luton all picked up 17 points in individual matches. In midfield, highest scoring player. There's 2 highest scoring players over 2 games. That was Thelo Asgard and Emilio Marcondes, who both picked up 24 each. But in one match, Finn Azaz scored 22 points in a single game and didn't even play in the second one. 2 goals, 2 assists, 5 key passes, 3 shots on target, and even a -1 for a yellow card in there as well from Finn Azaz. And then up top, over 2 matches, was Borja Sainz. 31 points, as we've mentioned. Ben, of course, in there, captaining Mr. Sainz and getting 62 points for the game week. That's massive. Scored a hat-trick in a 6-1 win versus Plymouth. And then there's Emmanuel Lath, who scored 29 overall, 27 of those coming in one game, in which he scored a hat-trick and got an assist in the 6-2 win against Oxford. Now, there are some names there that are starting to become quite consistent, particularly Lath and Sainz in there. There's also, I always like the freak ones, the ones that kind of haven't really featured too much in high-scoring weeks that just kind of pop up out of nowhere. I really like those ones. So that's where we were this week. I'm hoping Gary's there. He seems to have frozen. So I'm not really sure how to fill this, to be honest, ladies and gentlemen that are watching, but Gaz there has completely frozen his end. So I'm assuming this means that you can see me and you can't hear and or see Gary. Sadly, I don't have control of any of the production because I wouldn't even know where to start with that, to be honest. I'm happy to fill this time, though, with a little bit in terms of talking you through my team for this current week, upcoming week. But I'm on my own now, look at that. But there won't be any graphics to this. But we'll just, seems we're live. Typical, isn't it? The first time we do this live, we have a little technical hitch. But I will bring you on to my week this week, my team. So we have set ourselves just one small little rule set this coming week. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. So it is a game week which is a little bit unique, really, because the Championship are all playing on Saturday, but don't have any midweek games. League One and League Two are playing in the FA Cup on the whole this weekend. So there is only 1 or 2 fixtures in League Two featuring at the weekend, but both leagues have got a full fixture list in midweek. What this means, though, is there are 2 clubs who are featuring twice this week in Fleetwood Town and Colchester United. So for those of you wanted to think of your picks for this weekend, there's only a really limited number of teams and therefore players who are appearing in 2 matches this week. And we know the power of those 2 game weeks. But for us, in our little game, to make sure that we try and keep this interesting and allow ourselves to have different teams, what we're going to do is we're saying we're not allowed to pick the teams themselves or any players featuring in those teams that are playing twice this week, to allow us a wider pool of players to pick from, but also hopefully meaning that our team's going to be quite welcome back, Gary.
Right, let's bring this in. Don't tell me you're frozen again. Oh, for fuck's sake.
You haven't frozen at all.
Were you playing a trick on me there? I thought you were frozen.
No, I genuinely wasn't.
All right, I'll take you through my team. This is a disaster. We're not going to go live again. I've got the dog kicking off because next door's having deliveries, and now I'm swearing in the middle of the show. Oh dear. Anyway, so this is my team. Let me take you through what I've picked this week with my dog in the background. So I need some points. So I've gone for some old favourites, really. So Josh Griffiths in goal. I wanted to pick Lucas Jensen, but after last night, I just feel that I've cursed that. Josh Griffiths is a decent scoring goalkeeper at the minute. I know that the Bristol Rovers are away at Leyton Orient, but he's a good goalkeeper, a good shot stopper. He's scoring fairly consistently. Will Aimson was a stalwart of my team as I won that 5 on the bounce, or however many I won at the beginning of this series. So I've decided to go for him. And when you watch Paudie O'Connor, it's obvious why I've gone for him. Rotherham, Steve Evans, they're going to be a little bit more direct. There's going to be balls into the box. And when balls come into the Lincoln City box, Paudie O'Connor heads them away. And so there will be clearances. There will be points for Paudie. Picking Poku, nearly rhymes. I've got on the Kwame Poku this week. I've picked him once before, and I don't think he played in that game. Or there was some. Obviously, the curse kicked in, and I didn't get points for him. But he creates, he scores goals, he creates chances. He's the best player in League One by a country mile. So in picking him and captaining him, I am certainly hoping for some points. I'm not going to get an advantage over you, as people watching at home will see. But I thought that I was doing the right thing. Now, Dean Campbell, I am hoping that he is like Finlay for you, because he's not somebody that stands out. He's not a sexy pick, but he's highest on interceptions in League Two. And so I have decided to go down the stats route. I found a player who's high on interceptions, depending on where you look, of course, because I'm sure you're going to tell me that Sam Finlay is, but he's right up there. So again,
Dean Campbell is actually the highest in interceptions across all 3 leagues.
So therefore, I did double check as well that he plays, and he regularly completes 90 minutes as well. So unless he drops a jar of Dolmio and he's fought Friday night and breaks a toe, I'm hoping that we're going to be okay. Now I've said that will happen. And you'll notice I've shuffled about my formation this week, because I actually believe that there is a chance for plenty of goals in the Championship. Borja signs. I have written an article today about the Norwich and Luton game. Norwich put 6 past Plymouth. I think they put 4 past Hull. When they're at home and they're playing a team that are struggling and out of form, they do particularly well. And at the moment, the 23-year-old bangs in goals for fun. So I've got on him, maybe a week late, but I'm hoping that there are goals there. And again, Hull City just sacked their manager, absolutely dire. There'll be no new manager bounce because they won't have a new manager in by then. So it was a choice of whether I went for Finazaz in the midfield with one up top, Tommy Conway up top, or Latte Lat up top. I've gone for Latte Lat. He was a big scorer. I'm beginning to wish I'd gone for Conway, who tends to score a little more regularly rather than in fits and starts. So that's probably the only risk. I wanted a Middlesbrough player in, but I didn't know which one to bank on. Azaz didn't play the last game, but was outstanding in the game before. It's hard to know which one to go for, so I've gone for him. And then at the bottom, look, Middlesbrough are going to beat Hull. So it's a banker. I know it's at home, but it's a banker, and I fancy them to put a few goals in as well. QPR also dire. I think they won 2-0 the other night, but dire side, and I can see Watford putting with a few past them as well. So I've tried to play it safe. I really have this week. The only risk is Latte Lat in reality, and probably Josh Griffiths. The other 4 players should all be bankers, all be looking at scoring 7s to 10s. I'm hoping for a 50-plus week this week. Ideally, I think I'm going to be looking at 60 to 65 points. What are your initial thoughts on mine before we bring you in?
Kicking myself a little bit, if I'm honest, mainly because of the 2 up top. I know we've generally avoided that, and we've seen the power in defenders probably since the first few weeks. We kind of got on the defenders train a little bit. I'm starting to see the power in interceptions even more so now. So I kind of it looks like you're doing that as well. I think because of that, maybe just taken eyes a little bit off just actually scoring goals. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, as a Lincoln City supporter? But Yeah, there's two strikers that are performing incredibly well, and in terms of big scores, quite consistently in Sainz and Latalath. You mentioned they're both kind of fits and starts, but when they score, they tend to score well. I picked one of them. Of course, you've gone for both. Why the hell didn't I go for both? Because the reasoning that you've picked Latalath and Middlesbrough is absolutely bang on. So why I have decided not to pick Latalath, I'm not really sure. Well, I know the reason why, but I'm now kind of regretting it. So shall I bring my team up, or shall you bring my team up, and then
we'll bring
I'll
your
talk
team
you
up.
through that.
Can I just say the reason I pronounce it latte lat rather than latte lath is that LATH in terms of roof lat was in timber, it was always pronounced lat. So I'm latte lat rather than latte lath. But anyway,
It probably is.
there we go.
Anyway,
That is your team.
Now, I remember when we had a friend of the show, this EFL Josh, on as a guest, and he is an avid watcher of our show, which is really nice. But he's the expert, really. We kind of had that on as him to give us advice rather than the other way around, didn't we? And he made a point of saying something that I hadn't really. Before I'd done the opposite. I'd really backed teams and gone whole hog on certain teams and players in the first few weeks of this game. So I kind of would, for example, if I had selected, say, Middlesbrough, and I think, yeah, definitely think Middlesbrough are going to win, I would have picked two Middlesbrough players and put Middlesbrough at the bottom. Whereas, because my mentality behind that was, if it goes well, it's going to go really well. It could be a really high scoring week. Whereas Josh's mentality was, well, I want to try and make sure I don't double up on any, if possible, to try and spread the potential chances of scoring points, but also mitigate the risk if that team doesn't do well, because it's football. At the end of the day, it's not that predictable. So I've since then tried my best, more often than not, to try and kind of pick players and teams all completely independently of each other. So I'm not doubling up on many, if any. So the reason I didn't go for Latalath as a player, in terms of my thought process in the selection, was because I wanted to pick Middlesbrough as a team. And I couldn't really settle on anything else. Whereas I didn't really want to pick Norwich, because as much as I think Norwich will beat Luton, I'm not as confident in Norwich as I am as Middlesbrough in this particular fixture. So, yeah, I'll be honest. I got in from work. We're recording this on Thursday rather than Wednesday because there were games last night, so we couldn't do it until today. I finished later than normal. I've picked my team, haven't even had a chance to check bookings and potential suspensions. So I am crossing my fingers here that I've not made any glaring mistakes in that regard. And you're crossing your fingers that I have, of course. So I'll talk you through the team, though. So I have gone for Lucas Jensen. So we have swapped goalkeepers from last week. You've gone for Mr. Griffiths this week, and I'll swap it over to Lucas Jensen. Oxford are on not great form at the moment, and Millwall are on good form and haven't conceded many goals this season at all. To be honest, there weren't many goalkeepers I was particularly keen on. And then if there's not a goalkeeper that you're particularly keen on, you have two choices. Do you go for a keeper who you think is going to be busy and therefore make lots of saves and try and get points that way? Or do you pick someone who you think has got a reasonably good chance of getting a clean sheet? And I went for the latter in Lucas Jensen. Again, Oxford haven't been on great form, but they do score goals still. But Millwall don't concede many. So that was my thought process, is that Millwall are on good form. Their strengths maybe just about outweigh Oxford's strengths. So hopeful, fingers crossed here for a clean sheet for Lucas Jensen. Now, both of us have stepped away from the back three this week. I've gone for Mr. Hegem. Again, I'm seeing the power in clean sheets. See 5 points for clean sheets. And I see kind of the clearances as a bonus. Now, the best combination, of course, is clearances and tackles with a clean sheet. But the clean sheet really bumps the numbers up. And I felt like Hegem has got the potential to get a clean sheet away at a Preston side who are hardly big scorers. West Brom don't concede many goals and are on decent form. And also he scored quite highly for me previously, so there's a little bit of loyalty shown there with Mr. Hegem. And then a favourite of mine from early weeks, actually, before I really understood the power of defenders in Mickey Dimitriou. There were a few defenders that I was tempted by, but I couldn't settle on any. So I was tempted by Fernandez at Peterborough, but I wanted Poku, so I couldn't double up on a Peterborough player. I was tempted by Anthony O'Connor of Harrogate, and also of Ricardo Santos at Bolton. Both score highly for clearances, generally speaking, but I just didn't fancy them for either team for a clean sheet in their fixtures. And and Mickey Dimitriou playing away at Carlisle, an improving Carlisle, but also a Carlisle who have surprisingly under Mike Williamson gone very direct and are not playing the sort of football you expect to play under Mike. Traditionally, Mike Williamson's teams have done. I imagine that will come in time, particularly after January transfer window. But right now, Carlisle are playing a traditional football. Keep yourself in the league football, and Crewe are quite good at mopping that sort of football up. Mickey Dimitriou tends to make first contact on a lot of those long balls, and Crewe are not bad as a team defensively, and Carlisle aren't great going forward. So there's an off chance here of a clean sheet, but also plenty of clearances and tackles. We've both mentioned Poku. We've both captained Poku because as much as we've seen the value in the defensive metrics, if you score a goal or two, you get a lot of points, don't you? And Kwame Poku is the top goal scorer and an assist maker in League One, and has had some really big scores. And he's playing against, let's be honest, the worst team in League One in Burton Albion. I would have said that was Shrewsbury until Gareth Ainsworth came in, and I've completely changed my mind on Shrewsbury now. To be honest, that's the reason why I didn't pick a player from that game, because suddenly, from being Mr. Negative with Shrewsbury, I just think that they've got a swing about them now. They've got a bit of potential to give out some bloody noses. So I just thought, so early in Ainsworth's reign, let's stay away from a Shrewsbury fixture, or let's stay away from backing against Shrewsbury. And then I've gone for Ethan Arahan because we made the mistake of not picking him, basically, in the last couple of weeks. Just really, really consistent for interceptions. I think it's going to be quite a transitional game against Rotherham on Tuesday night. So hoping he will score well for interceptions. Also, recently in the last few weeks, he has started to score some points for key passes as well. He has been playing some quite adventurous passes at time, or some quite accurate forward passes. So you never know. Might be an extra bit there, but it's mainly for the interceptions. And then lastly, Sam Finley, as mentioned before, scored since he's come into the team at Tranmere, has scored really well, really consistently for both key passes and interceptions. So at home to Morecambe, feel that there's a good chance of that happening. Don't expect Tranmere to keep a clean sheet, to be honest, but that doesn't really matter for midfielders. It's irrelevant. I haven't picked them as a team. I've just picked a player that scores highly for key passes and interceptions. And then Borja Science up top against Luton at home. We've both picked Middlesbrough. And I decided to go for Reading, who are on decent form at the moment at home to Cambridge. To be honest, I was weighing up the pros and cons of picking Lewis Wing in midfield and then another team, but I couldn't quite settle on the team. So I thought I'll pick Reading, and then I had a few options for midfielders. So in order to not double up, that's why I went for Reading.
Interesting. I think the only thing I would say is that I think we focus on a tactic, and the not doubling up, staying religious to not doubling up can be detrimental, whereas doubling up can also be detrimental. So I try and keep it a little bit free and easy now, that if I really do fancy somebody like Middlesbrough and I think, well, they're going to beat Hull and they're going to score goals, I don't mind doubling up a little bit, because let's face it couldn't be any worse than what's happened to me in the last couple of weeks. Two things. First of all, really annoys me because I actually don't think that some of these abbreviations are the best. I actually didn't check the fixtures, and I thought that Peterborough were playing Bolton, B2 at BTN, not Burton, because they don't always make sense. Sometimes when I pick a player, I look and think, well, what on earth team is that? I think Cheltenham's another one. Why would you not just put the first three letters? There's so few teams that have the same first three letters. Why do they complicate it? If you say Burr, I'm not going to think, oh, it's
Cheltenham,
Bolton.
Chesterfield would be CHE at the start, in the same league as well.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but you could, for Chesterfield, you could have CFD because there's nobody with an F in it. BTN could be Bolton or Burton. It's just
no, I agree with it. I was expecting BUR if it was Burton, but it is Burton.
Why haven't?
So are you saying then that you kind of almost flukily chose Poku just because he's good? So you just saying that you picked Poku because he's good rather than because he's good and playing against Burton?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. And the other thing, goalkeepers. There was one goalkeeper that really did interest me this week, and the team he was playing had a player that interested me as well, Northampton and Stevenage, and I didn't back either of them. But Piergianni, if the likes of Tom Eaves are playing, he's going to be really involved in that. But he's let me down before, so I didn't go for it. But Lee Burge because Stephen Ivers only scored 11 goals all season. I really did fancy him, and I just couldn't take the risk in the end. If we're in one of our weeks where we've got stipulations, I can handle a bit of risk because I know you're going to make risks. But on a week where it's a free pick, I couldn't take any risks because it's like I more or less knew you'd pick Sam Finley. I was trying to second guess who you were picking, and I'm thinking, well, if you're going to pick Finley, I can get away with Campbell. You're probably going to have O'Connor or Rahane, so I will pick one of O'Connor or Rahane. You're probably going to have one of your stalwarts of defence, so I'll have one of my stalwarts of defence. You're definitely going to have Signs. You're probably going to have Poku. So it's almost like we're planning to play each other. Like Michael Scabala will be sitting there wondering what Rob Elliott's going to do at Crawley. I'm anticipating what you're going to do as much as actually making my own picks. And I may even have captained somebody different, but I thought if you've picked Poku, you're probably going to captain him as well. So yeah, interesting stuff. So that was game week 16. Chris is now 8-6 up. It's the game week where we've gone live for the first time. We peaked at 4 viewers, which is phenomenal stuff. So thank you everybody who has watched along. Please do share it with any of your kind of EFL Fantasy League channels or anything like that. So we'll be back next week where undoubtedly we're going to be talking about one of my players dropping a Dolmio on his foot, or playing video games deep into the night, mistraining and getting dropped, or maybe the wind will bring down the main stand at Carrow Road. Who knows? But something is bound to happen. In the meantime, we've just peaked at 5. Somebody's just joined us right at the end. So if that's you, sorry, but you will have to watch back because we're about to go. So all that remains to be said, rather clumsily because it doesn't fit, is up with Call and I.
And up substandard Liège.